Hello everyone and welcome again. So this is what we've created so far during this week, and we've got a pretty cool ground collapse effect that can work with many different scenarios. So doesn't matter what the scope that you're working with, you can use these techniques. If you wanted to have some kind of meteor that hits the ground, you can use this to create a force that pushes from underneath and upward to get all these interesting details. Now, with the difference, when you inject a velocity into a system that has a constraint, those pieces will not move because they are held up. And a lot of times, the glue constraint or whatever constraint you're going to have is requires an impact attribute to be broken. So with injecting the velocity only, you will not be able to break that glue constraint. So you have to delete them. So you lose details, you lose information from the constraint network. With the system, with the idea of having a surface underneath, you can actually keep all your constraints the way they are and get an interesting movement. So if you wanted to say, let's say, have a meteor that hits the ground and something from underneath explodes, you can create an RBD system, a fake packed primitive that does that motion and have it actually push the surface underneath. You just need to place more RBD pieces, and that will give you the motion that you need. You can, with that, inject extra velocity if you wanted to add more details. So if you wanted to add more swirl, you can inject the W attribute to make them rotate faster or something like that. You can also have this system work really well with a spaceship rising, similar to the one they had in Star Wars, that blue scene with a large spaceships rising, and then you see a lot of crumbling pieces, which we're going to do next week. So this system is very, very flexible. If you wanted to have, let's say, a crack traveling along the ground, you can do that. You can draw a curve on the ground and activate the nearby pieces only. You can do so many things with this system. The important bits is that you have to mix and use the soft constraint, and you can also add the pin constraint if you wanted to hold up the pieces a bit more. Now, with this, we get really nice tearing patterns that is very, very realistic, and that's something that is generally very hard to achieve. Now, what can we do on top of this to make it even more interesting? The thing that I really wish that I could have done is, and I think I'll show it more next week, is once this is done, we could add another layer, a very thin layer that is broken up into 10 times more pieces, and it doesn't have any constraints or anything. After we finish the sim, we place it on top and just let it sit and follow the motion. What's going to happen is, after the surface crumbles, all these pieces are going to start rotating and falling, and you're going to get so much details on the upper surface. So another third layer could be really, really cool, which we will add some of this behavior using debris and the uprise system, which we'll cover next week. But I think that's something that I'd like to add if I had time. Now, for this week, I want you guys to try different ideas. It doesn't have to be the ground collapse. You could do the rise. You could do a meteor hitting the ground. You could do a crack following a certain line. Doesn't have to be exactly this. You can use, instead of radial pattern falling, you could do a different shape and have it be, for example, like this, following this shape. You can have a radial shape, like a half a cylinder, just all falling down, and then you inject some noise to push everything. You could try anything you want. The other idea that we could incorporate here is to have some activation added on top. So for example, these pieces are rotating and wobbling at the beginning. We could animate the activation so it only moves these pieces and then it grows over time, and we could lock all these neighboring pieces, okay, which I've done, but it's not. I basically locked all these pieces and set them to 0 by grouping the center and setting everything else to active equals 0, which everybody knows at this point. So that's pretty much it. The other thing the message for destruction students, they have a lot more advanced techniques that they could incorporate to uprise the entire thing. And I'm gonna show a technique next week for uprising, but the one I showed in the destruction is way more advanced, and it takes about 3 weeks for me to explain it from scratch. So if you have taken the destruction workshop, I highly encourage you to take some of those concepts and try to apply them here. You can take this even further if you wanted to. And then you are more than welcome to reuse any of those techniques as well if you feel the need to do it. That's it for this week. Please focus on getting a stable sim that works, whatever the concept is. And then next week, we're going to talk about uprising. We're going to create a universal debris system, and then we're going to keep moving forward. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next week. Bye-bye.